Everybody, welcome to the second seminar of the LIP Teaching Mobility Actions. My name is Dragoș Ioniță. I'm a PhD candidate here at the National University of Political Studies and Public Administration and a assistant researcher in the Center for European Studies at this university actually. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the second seminar, as I said. We have a special guest coming all the way from Kosovo tonight. Professor Afrim Hoti is here with us. He is going to share his insights on the very complicated and complex relation between Kosovo and Serbia and the impact of this hard-fought normalization process that aims to bring the two countries together and facilitate their European path. Professor Hoti is a graduate of the University of Pristina. He holds a PhD in International Relations from Hamburg. He is very active in the field of international projects with USAID, UNDP, and he is currently representative of University of Pristina in the Linking to Europe at the Periphery project, which SNSPA is also part of. We aim to explain how Europe is contested, taught, and experienced at the periphery through a multitude of actions, such as this teaching mobility, but we also have more academic activities in the making, and we are grateful to have you all here. Professor Hoti, welcome back to Bucharest. It's been a long time since we met here in this very hall. And please, the floor is yours. Thank you for participation.
Dragoș, thank you. Thank you very much for introducing me, first of all. And as you said, yes, it is a fantastic as well as a bit emotional to come to this hall. We had a conference a few years ago, I think it was 2015, when I, for the first time, met a student from SNSPA, together with Professor Miruna, Dragoș, and other colleagues. We had an opportunity to discuss very interesting topics, very sensitive ones, of course. And yeah, in my way to SNSPA, I just felt a bit emotional that close to a decade later we are coming at the same hall to discuss quite a similar things or quite a similar stuff which is linked with what Dragoș already mentioned, the complicated issue and process of negotiation between Kosovo and Serbia. But more than that, maybe I would like to reflect a little bit, a short insight on the broader context, broader aspects of the European integration process in the Western Balkans. As you can see from the topic, me and my colleagues from your university decided. You see, there is the Western Balkans delayed road towards EU integration, a view from the Kosovo-Serbia dialogue. Of course, I will try to give, first of all, a short speech on three main aspects, which, in my point of view, of course, delayed the Western Balkans road toward EU integration, and then the focus will be definitely on the complicated process of negotiation between two republics, Republic of Kosovo and Republic of Serbia, to define finally the final arrangements and what is called so far a kind of normalization of relations between two countries. But before them, I wanted to mention in front of you the three or the triangle events which delayed the route of EU integration. The first, the Bosnian problem, which, as most of you, I suppose, are familiar, started in 1994, 1995, being a quite complicated issue between the triangle, between the three nations, Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes. The second, the problem of Northern Macedonia, or Macedonian problem, which also influenced the road toward the Western Balkans integration to the European Union, especially for the integration of Republic of Macedonia, and I will reflect a little bit on that aspect. And the third one, and I think, in my point of view, the most complicated issue of the dialogue between Kosovo and Serbia. Bosnian problem is definitely the most problematic, or at least it used to be quite problematic, which came as a result of the dissolution process of former Yugoslavia. I don't know how familiar you are with that complicated process, a dissolution which had some political as well as legal consequences, because at the very beginning, or the early stage of the dissolution process, it was an opinion given by some politicians, some legal experts of that time, that only republics or only the constitutive elements of former federation had the right to self-determination. And that right belonged mainly to Republic of Slovenia, or northern republics of former Yugoslavia, Slovenia, Croatia, and the others, Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, including Republic of Macedonia. But as a design given by the politicians as well as a legal expert, I'm talking here namely for Robert Badinter, a very well-known French constitutionalist who was asked by the international community at that time to give a legal opinion in terms of who from former Yugoslavia have the right to self-determination, because it was obvious that the country had to go through a dissolution, so there was no choice. The only alternative for Yugoslavia at that time was the declaration of the respective independences of the former entities within a federation, and something which was perfectly used by northern republics, by Slovenia and Croatia. They were, of course, based on the history, based on the tradition, based on the geography. You know, we are talking for the two territories which historically kept very close connections with the Western countries, namely Germany, Italy, Austria, France, Great Britain, and so on and so forth. So these two republics historically claim that they are by accident, let me call so, part of what was created following the Second World War, former Yugoslavia, because more than that, they belong to the Westernization, or they were part of the Westernization concept of the former federation. Anyway, we definitely saw the scenarios of division of these two countries, which in the same day declared their respective independence. They asked for recognition, something which happened by international community. So in the same day as they declared their independences, both countries were recognized. While after Croatia, then it was a turn of a new entity, which in the first view was not, or seemed not to be so complicated. I'm talking here for Bosnia and Herzegovina. As a constituent, Bosnia was part of former Yugoslavia. It was created as a republic a bit later comparing to the other republics, not in the same way or not in the same period like others. But anyway, under the federation, under the constitution of former Yugoslavia, they were equal to the other republics. Unfortunately, in Bosnian case, there were some expansionary theories or some tendencies to control the territories, mainly by Serbian nationalists, those who were in power and as the central authorities in Belgrade. But also the internal forces in Bosnia and Herzegovina were used to keep somehow kind of control, hold the territory of Bosnia. But when they saw that something like that is impossible, then a battle between the two continued to control as much as possible from both sides. As a consequence, two entities were created. So I'm talking here for the Republic of Srpska, an entity which was created, which came as a result of the war and also as a result of the genocide. And since we are talking for Republic of Srpska, let me tell in front of you that in my point of view, this was the biggest mistake, or the creation of Republic of Srpska and recognition through a Dayton peace agreement for Bosnia and Herzegovina by international community was the biggest mistake done by international community through a dissolution process of former Yugoslavia. Why I'm saying so? I'm saying this because the creation of such an entity was definitely in contradiction with all international mechanisms, starting from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, starting also from other UN acts, starting from the Helsinki Final Act. So an entity in former Yugoslavia which did not exist in any period of time was created, and unfortunately such an entity was formalized through a Dayton peace agreement. Anyway, many authors, many scientists, many politicians, diplomats, experts of international relations, whenever they speak for the case of Bosnia, they consider the Dayton peace agreement maybe the best solution for the period it happened. Because yes, it was definitely impossible to stop the atrocities, to stop the war without recognizing the situation in terrain. I don't know if you are familiar with the international law principle uti possidetis. Uti possidetis iuris is a principle of international law which recognizes to an entity the right to control a territory, or if I try to translate maybe in a bookful form, uti possidetis means that since you have something in the control, then keep it, then try to keep it. And this principle actually gave the right to Serbians as well as Croats, and also the Bosniaks who fought for Bosnia and Herzegovina, to keep the control of the certain part of the territories, which make Bosnia even today a quite complicated case, even though there is an agreement signed by the parties. I'm talking here for Dayton peace agreement signed by Milosevic, Alija Izetbegovic, leader of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Franjo Tuđman, the Croatian side, sign or have an agreement for finding and also declaring the final agreement for the situation, something which was accepted by triangle, by both sides. But unfortunately, the practical implementation of such an agreement did not happen as it was planned, or at least to some extent the plan is still even today not fully implemented. Why I am referring to the agreement, or to the Dayton Agreement, is definitely the fact that such an agreement kept somehow Bosnia and Herzegovina, first of all, but also the tendencies of other regional countries suspended as being part of the European integration. You have seen that Bosnia is among, or is in the last, or on the last countries on the list for European integration. All of this comes as a result of many complications, of many disagreements, or many obstacles both entities in Bosnia and Herzegovina are facing in their way for the full integration process. The integration process for Bosnia and Herzegovina remains, and to some extent is worsening. Also in the last years, in the last months, precisely talking, as the tendencies for the control, or the tendencies for changing the territories in Bosnia and Herzegovina, they're still alive. Some leaders in Bosnia, like Dodik and some previous leaders, tried to give some other options apart from those of the integrative aspect, or integrative prospects for Bosnia and Herzegovina, first of all, to make it function, to consolidate the state, and also to push Bosnia and Herzegovina toward the EU integration. Some tendencies we see, and they are seen in terrain, that some political forces just take the contradiction, or the contrary mechanism, contrary steps toward the situation there. In my point of view, yes, definitely, these voices are not heard in a right way, or at least, of course, they are in the scope of criticism, mainly from the Western countries, talking here precisely for countries, main powers from European Union, as well as United States and international organizations, which do not in any case, or do not in any circumstances, support the idea of division, or support the idea of changing of borders in Bosnia and Herzegovina, because the only way forward is the full integration of the Bosnian country, first of all, and then, apart from Bosnia, the Western Balkans in general. Another problem coming from Western Balkans is definitely linked with the relations of Republic of Northern Macedonia, or North Macedonia, or what is used to be called, Dragos knows for sure, Macedonia, which is definitely not, or at least was not a new or an unknown problem. It comes a bit from the history. I'm not entering too much in history, because in the Balkans, whenever we enter in the history, it's a bit problematic, yeah, because our history is all politicized. And just a moment. So whenever we try to enter in history, then we definitely enter into the politics, because the history is perceived and also is shown in different ways. It happened to me personally many times when I heard historical stories of Kosovo, or historical stories of my region, or historical stories of the Western Balkans. And I asked myself after these stories that, am I from Kosovo or not? Or maybe there is another Kosovo in another planet. Because the circumstances were definitely different. So nothing to do with the reality. Anyway, when speaking for Macedonia, we have to keep in mind that there was a conflict between Greece and Macedonia. And the core of the conflict were the fear or the resistance the Hellenic Republic did toward Macedonia as a country, Republic of Macedonia, based on the name. So the main criticism of the Hellenic Republic was the issue of name. I don't know if you are familiar. If you are not, then allow me maybe with 2 or 3 sentences to reflect a little bit. Macedonia, the one from the history of Alexander the Great, was divided into 3 main regions. The first one, what was known, the Republic of Macedonia in former Yugoslavia. So that was known somewhat Macedonia of Vardar or Tito's Macedonia, the first. And this territory composed around, let's say, 50% of the whole territory of Macedonia. The second part of Macedonia was known as Egeiska or Aegean Macedonia, some territory of Greek Republic, going closely to the today's territory of Thessaloniki. So this was known as Macedonia of Aegean, which comprises around 40% of the whole territory of the historical Macedonia. And the third part of Macedonia was Pirinska or Pyrenian, Pirinska in Slavic languages, or Pyrenian Macedonia, which is situated in some territory of Bulgaria. So you can see a little bit mathematics. 50% of the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia plus 40% of the Aegean Macedonia plus 10% of Pyrenian Macedonia compose the old historical Macedonia or Macedonia of the Alexander the Great. So the heritage of this old Macedonia was not taken, of course, by Republic of Macedonia as part of former Yugoslavia. But when former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia declared the independence from Yugoslavia, then Greek side wanted to have some kind of impact and to try maybe not to allow the Republic of Macedonia use the constitutional and the name Republic of Macedonia, because who knows? Maybe after years or after few decades, there will be some kind of pretensions saying that, yes, we are the real Macedonians. And then under the certain circumstances, there will be some claims for the territorial pretensions saying that, yes, your territory have to be joined, have to be taken by Macedonia, historical Macedonia, because we want to create. And you know, guys, that in Western Balkans, this was this happened quite often. From the Croat side, from the Serbian side, from the Albanian, from all parties, from all nations which try to expand and also to make the territories as good as possible. So Greece definitely was not in a position, and they, as a consequence or not agreeing with this situation, they blocked the tendencies of Northern Macedonia to join any kind of international organizations, including here the membership in NATO, when Macedonia was supposed to join NATO in a Bucharest summit, I think 2007 or 2008. Yeah, 2008, when Croatia joined later Albania. But Greece was there to say, no, sorry, because there will be no full integration unless you do not change the name. So the tendencies of the integration for Northern Macedonia faced some obstacles, some real obstacles, which kept the objective or the tendencies of Northern Macedonia to be integrated to the European Union and also in NATO. the battle was not easy one. The battle continued for both sides. Greeks were quite determined, saying that there will be integration of Northern Macedonia only in the moment they will show some kind of respect and they will show some kind of compromise in terms of using a different name. We have to keep in mind here that until late here, Northern Macedonia was registered and was accepted as part of the United Nations under the name of former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia only. So there was no constitutional name as Republic of Macedonia as they had in their constitution, a name which was accepted by some countries only. Let mention here Republic of Albania, and I am intentionally reminding that Albania was among few countries which recognized the Republic of Macedonia as under the constitutional name. There was lots of criticism, dear colleague Dragos, because of the tensions, because of the reports, because of the well, let me say maybe the conflict between Macedonia and internal conflicts. You know, the composition of the population is a bit problematic, and we had also the conflict in 2001. So there was a criticism done for the Albanian leadership saying that, look, why Albania recognized Macedonia under the constitutional name? It had to go at least in line with the UN, and it makes sense. So it means definitely that yes, we are part of UN and we are following the political line given by the United Nations. But Albania was among those countries which have done a step forward in terms of the recognition the Republic of Macedonia under the constitutional name. So whatever the tendencies and the plans of Macedonia of that time were for the integration, and the main destination for Macedonia was NATO. And that's not only a destination for Macedonia, but for all countries coming from Western Balkans and European Union. All these tendencies and all these plans kept suspended, kept blocked by the Hellenic Republic, pushing Macedonia toward a deal, toward a compromise, toward an agreement which finally would suit two sides, Macedonians and Greece, for a final name. Those who lived in this period of time were fortunate to see that with the mediation of European Union and the mediation of United States, an agreement was reached. So they brought both sides, Albanians and Macedonians and the Greek side of the table, and they finally decided that the name dispute between these two countries is solved, and the new name for Republic of Macedonia was, as it is today, Republic of North Macedonia. This was considered definitely as a success for the countries, first of all, for Macedonia or North Macedonia, because through this agreement, a path or integration path for Macedonia was open. Few months later, Macedonia becomes or gets the NATO membership. They become a member of NATO, and they also progress toward the integration of the European Union. We have to keep in mind that Macedonia definitely was ahead. I think, together with Serbia, Professor Bardok is here, maybe can help me a little bit, you know. Together with Serbia, Macedonians were among the first countries from the Western Balkans to progress. But anyway, the progress done by Macedonia was blocked due to the name dispute. So after the agreement, also the path for the EU integration was opened, and Macedonia was definitely riding toward membership at the European Union. Today, they are filling the criteria, just like other countries in the Western Balkans. They are also part of NATO, which is one of the main objectives of our neighbor, North Macedonia. The third and the most problematic issue in the Western Balkans is definitely the problem between Serbia and Kosovo. Again, I do not want to involve myself too much in politics, in history, because then we face lots of differences. We face and we see lots of stories, starting from those which are a bit emotional, saying that yes, Serbia or we have been part of Albania, Kosovo is Albania, and that's it. Or on the other side, Kosovo is Serbia, so it used to be part of Serbia. So it used to be cradle of the Serbian civilization. You know, you see even today many claims, many paroles, you know, all over Europe, even in the sport evenements, saying that yes. And I just want to quote a professor of mine. When we were part of international conference, and suddenly a Serbian participant in a conference mentions that yes, Kosovo is a cradle of Serbian civilization. And then, of course, it was emotional. And based on the fact that, you know, in Kosovo there are more than 90%, 92 or 93% Albanians, then the professor of mine, who is not with us today, I never forget, he mentioned that how comes that in your cradle is living someone else's baby? So, because in your cradle has to be definitely your baby, but how comes that in your cradle is 92 or 93 of someone else's population? So you see these kind of tendencies and emotionals which are part of the history, but. Let me try to reflect a little bit from the neutral positions. Kosovo was part of the former federation, starting from following the end of the Second World War, where Kosovo by force was integrated into the state structures of former Yugoslavia. Why I am mentioning here by force, I refer to the Second Prizren League. I don't know if you are familiar with a little bit with the history. During the Second World War, it was kind of agreement between nations from former Yugoslavia or from the Western Balkans, claiming that yes, let us gather. Let us start to fight together against Germans and Italians in order to expel them from the territory of the Balkans. And once they leave the country, then we sit on the table and definitely decide for our future, definitely decide for our perspective. And they did. So the war was organized together. And following the end of the war in Prizren, the representatives from the different regions in Kosovo were invited, and they were asked whether they want to join Albania, create a Republic of Kosovo, or they want to join the Republic of Serbia. And of course, 99% were in favor of joining to Albania, because they said, yes, simply, we are Albanians and we want to live as Albanians. We have our territory and that's it. No. All of them, unfortunately, were killed. And by force, Kosovo was integrated into the state structures of the former Yugoslavia. When speaking for the position of Kosovo in former Yugoslavia, let me try to reflect into twofold. The first, the political perspective or the political dimension, and the second, the constitutional dimension. And of course, I like the second one. I feel more lawyer than political scientist and like the constitutional perspective. But anyway, the political perspective or the dimension for former Yugoslavia was divided into two periods of time. The first one, the period between 1945 till 1966. And this was definitely the darkest, the rudest history, not for Albanians, first of all, but also for other nations, as this period of time was characterized by the tendency of domination of Serbians over other nations in former Yugoslavia. And the second political theory, or the dimension, lasted from 1966 with the fall of Alexander Rankovic. And Alexander Rankovic was one of among the rudest leaders in former Yugoslavia. He fell with his policy, with his position, and into the office in former Yugoslavia comes Josip Broz Tito, a communist leader, the one who promoted the principle, yes, we are brothers and we have to live unified in Yugoslavia. We are all equal and we have to stay together. So that period of time started in 1966 and lasted till mid-80s or mid or end last years of 80s. There is no specific year when this theory, ended up, because it was a period of time after the Milosevic came into power, and then he tried to reinstall, the tendency to control the former federation. And of course, a few years later, we see that at the end of 80s, beginning of 90s, the country finds no perspective, no solution, and the only option remained was the dissolution process and breakup of former Yugoslavia. All these political processes were followed by the constitutional changes, starting from the first one, 1946, then second one, 1953, the third one, 1963. The fourth one, and the best one, it was 1974, and I'm mentioning it 1974, which for the first time in Kosovo history and Yugoslav history, Kosovo was advanced in a constitutive element, in a member of former Yugoslavia. So if Yugoslavia before 1974 was composed by 6 members, then after the Constitution of 1974, it was composed by 8. So Kosovo practically was advanced in a quite similar, Drago, let me know if I have more about how you organize the lecture, if you want me to short, because sometimes we, yeah, okay. For the first time, as I said, with the Constitution of 1974, Kosovo practically was put in a very similar, not to say same, but very similar position with other republics. Kosovo had also the ingerences in the foreign policy. Well, not as a foreign minister, but there were somebody dealing with the foreign policy. There were some bodies also dealing with the internal and security constitutional aspects. There was also a provision in the previous Kosovo's constitution mentioning that there is no change of borders of the federation without a consent of the autonomous provinces, meaning that yes, provinces were vested with some competences also into the external, let me say, border issues. And practically, we see that the position of Kosovo was quite similar with other republics. When the dissolution process started, then all countries, as I said in the beginning of my word, declared their respective independence. It was expected that Kosovo would do the same. And of course, Kosovars had to follow their political objective. In the first years, characterized by the peaceful discourse. It was a peaceful leader, a democratic leader of Kosovo, Ibrahim Rugova, who was known as a Balkan Gandhi, or the Gandhi from the Balkans, a person who who avoided any tendency of confronting militarily the Serbian side. But in a peaceful way, he wanted to create a path in order to open the possibilities and declare the independence of Kosovo. But with that policy, definitely Albanians did not, or Kosovars did not succeed, did not see or seem not the right one to arrive at the destination. Especially after at the end of 90s, mid-90s, or 96, 97, 98, which were years of Ibrahim Rugova leading with the country for close to a decade, but with a very little result. And this actually led toward the radicalization of mainly youngsters, young population in Kosovo, mainly young people, who took the action, and they tried to find some other options, some other mechanism to go toward the independence. And among the mechanisms was, of course, the military confrontation, which happened in 1998, 1999 through Kosovo Liberation Army. In 1999, Kosovo was placed under the international administration after the intervention of NATO, or after the campaign led by NATO for 77 or 78 days, a hybrid campaign, a military plus a diplomatic campaign, which definitely stops the atrocities and the violation of human rights and stop the mass killings and massacres happening in Kosovo, deploying in a territory the hugest, the biggest mission of UN under the resolution 1244 adopted by the Security Council of United Nations. The mission, as I said, was the biggest and the largest, vested with all kind of competencies, legislative, because the UN authority was the only authority to produce the legislation, execution of this legislation, including the administration of the judiciary, so that the person from UN was acting like a king or a queen in terms of ruling the territory. And the idea was that, well, the situation will last until the circumstances are created in order to sit parties in the table and find political solution. Close to 10 years under the international administration got the process which was characterized with ups and downs. Of course, it kept the parties suspended. Albanians looking toward the full independence as the only option for Kosovo, while Serbians kept some hopes that maybe after the administration, the territory will be reintegrated into the state structure of Republic of Serbia. After a few rounds of negotiations, after a few rounds of attempts to find a political settlement for Kosovo between the parties, it was obvious, it was evident that there will be no solution for them. And the only way is to declare the independence, which something which happened definitely in February 2008, when Kosovo, supported by the main Western powers, declared the independence of Kosovo and asked the international community to recognize it. Today, Kosovo is recognized by more than 100, so the number is varying, but it's around 115 UN members which recognize the Republic of Kosovo. By the European Union, 22 out of 27 members recognize the country. 5 countries, including Romania, are still having some reserves. some hesitations, But I think, at least in my point of view, they also are aware that there is no way back. But still, the situation is sad. But anyway, apart from these politics, and we fully understand, we fully understand these countries. I personally, and also my colleagues, Professor Nasser and Bardock and the others, do cooperate and are in the everyday contacts with our colleagues from these countries, It is crucial for Kosovo, as well as for Serbia, to go toward the EU integration. So that's the only option. And we are fortunate that both countries declared openly and noisily that, yes, their destination is the membership of the European Union. But how both countries will go to EU, it remains to be seen, at least so far. In 2011, European Union started a process of negotiation. So there were, at the end of the tunnel, some signs that both parties have to sit and to resolve what at the beginning were known as the technical aspects of the parties. So the process was named as a technical process. We have to sit and to resolve some technical issues. Let's say the plate cards, or the IDs, the documents, the cadastre, the university diploma, or whatsoever, because nothing with the politics. And the EU was kind of facilitator, trying to mediate, even though for EU it was quite complicated, because how can an entity mediate without having a clear position toward the problem? The EU is having, let me say, an ambiguous approach. 22 are recognizing they are, yes, France, Germany, Italy, and the main countries are in favor, but still some are resisting. So EU had to, and is still trying to mediate without having a clear picture itself. So it is a complicated process, but still there is a process which is continuing. As I said, it started in 2011, and it's going on, still going on, and moving from the technical aspects toward the kind of political ones, but no discussion for the status. Both sides keep their positions totally and diametrally opposite. So Serbia continues to advance and to go toward European Union, still keeping some position, some frozen position toward Kosovo. While Kosovo is also the country which is cooperating and showing the respect and showing the attitude toward the European Union as a country. And of course, facing many difficulties in terms of their communication, because it's only European Parliament, the only body of EU which considers Kosovo as a country. European Commission and some others are still keeping this neutral position toward Kosovo. Anyway, as I said, apart from these obstacles, both countries are aspiring to be member of European Union. They are advancing with their respective agenda, and it seems that as close as countries go to the EU gate, they will face more visibly and more directly the effect of the normalization process. Because, as you know, that at some moment, at some point, the EU will ask maybe Serbia, that yes, you guys have to define what is your territory or what is the number of population. So, this, in order to resolve these issues, a negotiation process is still supported, and it's dynamized by the EU in order hopefully to find a final political settlement and final what is called normalization of relations. This kind of terminology so far is used differently by the sides. because for Serbia, normalization of relations means a normalization of communication between Belgrade and Serbia, Belgrade and Pristina, two cities in Serbia, while for Kosovo is totally different, a normalization between two sovereign countries. So a normalization of relations means definitely the full recognition of, mutual recognition of the two and their respective progress toward the EU integration. I'm closing in a few sentences, Dragos. I know the students maybe want to, and we have reserved also some time to discuss. In my point of view, EU is, as I said, is the main destination. Is not proving itself as an actor with the full and enough capacity to mediate and to impose the agreements, to impose the solution for the parties. Because, and this is, of course, would have mutual consequences. First of all, for the parties, because they will continue not to cooperate, they will continue to keep their different sides. But also, that's not in the interest of the EU, because the region is not still integrated in the European Union. So there are mutual consequences for both sides. But hopefully, in light of the war in Ukraine, it depends a lot on the end of that process. We definitely hope that after few agreements we finally got with between the two, between Serbia and Kosovo, the light at the end of the tunnel is seen, and the only option definitely is the mutual recognition of both sides, and then by recognizing each other, creating the new circumstances for getting recognitions from 5 non-recognizers for Kosovo, and by them also opening the path for the full integration of Kosovo, Serbia, and the Western Balkans in general. I know, Dragos, and I know, my dear students, that we can talk a lot, because we talk for a quite long process and many dimensions, many elements, and very interesting ones. But I consider that for a lecture, it's enough maybe to break the ice here a little bit and then to pass the floor to you. Thank you.